Shabbat shalom, everybody, and you're welcome to the Shabbat of this morning. And I said Pesach Sameach for everybody that is watching online and everybody that is keeping time with us. We thank the Lord our God for His blessing, for His grace, and for His love upon us individually and collectively. Yes, this the Pesach of this year was a kind of a very wonderful, very great Pesach. I see that many people lost energy. Right, and actually we did what is called African Pesach. You know, the way it was done in Egypt with candle. You know, with candles, that is how we did the Pesach this year. You know, we light the candles, and it was fun. You know, it was very interesting. So it was great. We thank the Lord our God for everything, for His love. He said, in all things we should give what? Glory to the Almighty God. And the message of this morning, see, we don't have any parasha this week. The message is just canting of the Omer. How do we cant the Omer? Because we have different versions, different interpretations. And to me, as a rabbi, it comes to understand that why do we have all these different versions? Why do we have all these different interpretations? This is as simple as what the Torah said. Okay, Moshe gave, the first Omer was canted when they enter into the land, in the book of Yehoshua, in the book of Joshua. So if we know the first Omer that was canted, so why are we, still looking for trouble, that I know this is my own interpretation, this is my own interpretation, this is how I understand it. To me, it just doesn't make sense, right? In the sense that, look, we understand that all our festivals has seasons. And all this came all the way back from where? From Mesopotamia. Don't forget. All our festival, everything come all the way. You can trace them. You can trace their lineage. You can trace their history all the way back to where? To Mesopotamia. That is where everything comes from. God is just want to tell us, instead of you using all this festival to serve idols. No, I need to refine it for you. I make everything under the sun is mine. And I created all things. And all these things is for my glory. So, and that is why God chose us to teach us so that we, the Israelites, will teach the rest of the world. Right? So, the spring festival is the Pesach. And spring is what? Spring is renewal. It's new life. And Pesach, what? Pesach is a life. That we got life and our enemy was consumed. You see, it's all about life, that God is giving us life. Spring is all about life. During the winter, everything is dead, right? Yes, I know, I understand. You might say, some people that are watching online might say, Rabbi, there's a place where we have 6 months of light and 6 months of rain, just like in Africa. Yeah, there's nothing dead here, That is why you can see them. That's why in Africa, if there is no banana, there is mango. If there's no mango, there is all year round, there is every, so we don't care, right? So I understand that. But we need to understand that in some region of the world, it's 4 seasons. In the southern part of Africa, it's 4 seasons. In the northern part of Africa, it's 4 seasons. Only in the equatorial that we have 2 seasons. The rainy season and the dry season. But in other parts of the world, maybe in some part of all the equators, maybe in some country in the equator, maybe like Cuba or like all those people, all those countries that are in the equator, they have only two seasons. But the rest of the world is 4 seasons. So that is, and we need to understand that where we came from, Mesopotamia is a what? Is 4 seasons. And God is giving us to understand the people at that time, they use this season to serve their gods. To say, oh, their God is favoring them, is giving them life, is giving them food, and so on and so forth. And God is saying, no, you shall not do that. The Egyptians, they use those seasons to, each season has its gods. And they use it to serve all their gods. And God says, you shall not do that. This is where you are going to do it. This is what I'm going to teach you on how to do it. And we can see that it is not an incident that God brought us out in the month of spring. It's not an incident at all. There's a purpose, there's a teaching there that God is teaching us. God said, I brought you out in the season of spring. Because in the season of spring, that is when life restarts again, a new life. I have removed you from the clipboard. You know the meaning of clipboard? Clipboard meaning an evil inclination. That is in Kabbalah. Say, I've removed you from the evil clipboard for serving this negative power, and I'm now bringing you to serve me. I have broken the clipboard, I've destroyed it, and now I'm giving you life. You shall be with me. I am your God. You shall serve me, and I will be your God. And I'll protect you, I will favor you, I will bless you. See, we can see the balancing that the Holy One, blessed be He, that is doing there. Okay, right. Let me quickly now. So, why is it that we have this? The question is, why do we have all these different interpretation of the canting of the Omer? The Pilgrimage Festival of Maṣṣoth fall on the time of the barley festival. That is the barley festival is the Shavuot. That is the festival of Maṣṣoth. Maṣṣoth meaning the matzah. You know, the festival of matzah. That is the festival of the unleavened bread. That is the festival of Pesach. Pesach is called the festival of unleavened bread. You can call it Pesach. You can call it festival of unleavened bread. And you can call it festival of matzah. It's the same thing. Matzah is unleavened bread. It's talking about the same festival. Okay, so it's still the same thing, and it falls on the barley harvest during the festival on the morrow after the Shabbat. That is Leviticus chapter 23 verse 11. And Omer of the first cutting of the barley harvest is brought to the temple as an elevation offering, and until the Omer is elevated, we cannot eat from the produce of the new grain. No, we cannot taste, we cannot eat it until there is an elevation, until we give thanks unto God for giving us a what? A new life, for giving us a food, because it's a barley, you know, it's wheat. That we have, wheat is what? Wheat is bread, right? So we eat. So that on the day of the elevation of the Omer, we commence counting the 7 complete Shabbat, which culminate in the pilgrimage of the week. What is the meaning of the pilgrimage of the week? The pilgrimage of the week is what? The Shavuot. The Shavuot is called the festival of the weeks. Shavuot, the word Shavuot meaning weeks, counting of the week. That's what it means. So now we are going to, he said, you are going to count 7 Shabbat. Then the next day is Shavuot. We will be 49. Then on the 50th day is Shavuot. Okay? That's what the Torah said. And you shall count for yourself from the morrow after the Shabbat, from the day that you brought the Omer of the elevation offering, 7 complete Shabbats. There shall be until the morrow after the 7th Shabbat, you shall count 50 days. That is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 15 to 16. But what does the Torah mean by the phrase on the morrow after the Shabbat? What does it mean by the word the morrow after the Shabbat? That I mean the next day after the Shabbat. What Shabbat is Torah talking about? Because that is where the confusion is. And that is why we see the Ashkenaz and the Sabbath. They say no, it's talking about the next day after Pesach. Because they take Pesach as a what? As a Shabbat. Which is true. Pesach is a Shabbat because it's a rest. It's a rest day. But Pesach has a specific date, right? God said on the what? On the 14th in the evening twilight, you shall do what? Kill the Pesach. Every year it doesn't change. But Shavuot has no specific date. Why? Because it changes every year according to the calendars. There is no a date in the Torah that God said, okay, on the so time you shall keep Shavuot. Because that is why God said you shall count this and this and this. And when you count 7 Shabbat, the next one, the next day, which is the 50th day, is what? Is Shavuot, because it changes. So Pesach has its own date, 14th of Nisan, which is the first month. In the twilight to the 15th, you shall kill the Pesach. And then the Shabbat after that is my own understanding. Which means the next Shabbat after the killing of the Pesach, that Shabbat you shall start counting 7 Shabbat after that. But as said, some, because in for example, the Karaite Jew, that is how they do. With the Ethiopian Jew, that's the same thing. With the Ethiopian Jew, we can't after the Shabbat, the first Shabbat, after the from today they will start counting. Today is the first one. They start counting. Then we bring the we do the elevation offering after when we counted the 7 weeks. Then that will bring us into what you call it, into Shabbot. We need to count 50 days, but many different people, different rabbis with different traditions. But my own concern here is, if we did this festival first time when Yehoshua brought us up into the land, so why don't we just keep it moving that way? Why are we confusing ourselves? Yes, I understand that many people went into slavery. People went into different kinds of the regions of the world. We went to the Babylonian slavery, we went to the Persian slavery, and things must have changed. But to me, that is not an excuse for us to try to input another ideology or another understanding into the Torah, right? Because we need to understand that these festivals that God gave us, they have a reason, they have a purpose. And the purpose is this, that we should use these festivals and these rituals to glorify and to exalt the Lord our God for a particular reason, for giving us bread. Because Yeshua said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by the word that comes out from the mouth of the living God. But remember again that if you don't have bread, you cannot sustain your flesh. You need bread to sustain the physical part of you. You are made up of 3 different parts. You have the spirit, the souls, and the body. Right? You have to balance everything up. Right? If you don't balance everything up, you won't survive. Everything has to be balanced up according to the Torah. Since the elevation offering, since the elevation of the Omer occurred during the Pilgrimage Festival of Maṣṣoth, there are those who maintain that the Shabbat in the phrase on the morrow after the Shabbat refers to the 15th of the first month, that is, the first day of the festival, which is holy day and thus by definition a type of Shabbat, which is true. But therefore, according to this view, the theme on the morrow after the Shabbat means the morrow after the first holy day of the festival, in other words, the 16th of the first month. Those who uphold this view commence the counting of the 7 complete Shabbat from the 16th of the first month, which is what the Ashkenaz and the Sephardi, which is what they do. But the Megrite Jew, the Ethiopian, and the Karaite, we don't do that. We start counting from today, not from on the 16th. No, we start counting on the fourth Shabbat, which is today. However, this understanding of the phrase on the morrow after the Shabbat does not hold its weight when examined in the light of the Peshat. In the light of the Torah, the plain interpretation of it, the layman interpretation of the Torah. Number 1, in the passage under discussion, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 9 to 16, the word Shabbat is preceded by the definite article the, which define the intermediate, which define the indeterminate nouns a Shabbat as the Shabbat, that is, the weekly Shabbat. There is no Shabbat in the entire Torah other than the Shabbat of Genesis, that is, the 7th day of the week. That is the only Shabbat that we have in the Torah. The Shabbat that we have in the Torah is the Shabbat, the ending of the 7th day of the week. And on that day, we have a rest. But our festivals are their kind of Shabbat, their kind of rest, but not the weekly 7 kinds of Shabbat. if in this context, the Shabbat in the phrase the morrow after the Shabbat means the holy day of the festival, that is the 15th of the first month, and not the weekly Shabbat, then the phrase 7 complete Shabbat must be referring to 7 other festivals. But there are no other festivals. However, the upholder of the view that on the morrow after the Shabbat mean the 16th of the first month, maintaining that the other 7 Shabbat are not festival but are in fact period of 7 days, that is weeks in general. Although it is not grammatically logical for the word Shabbat to mean 2 different things within the same context. If the word Shabbat does mean the holy day of the festival, then why the first holy day of the Pilgrimage Festival of Maṣṣoth, that is the 15th, rather than the last holy day of the festival, which is on the 21st of Nisan? Okay, all the same. What I'm saying is, God said that the first day we shall have holy convocation, right, on Shabbat, right, and on the 21st another holy convocation for those people that take the view that the festivals we will need to count the Omer from the Pesach, after the second day after the Pesach, and they are saying that the Pesach is a kind of a Shabbat. So if we take that opinion, that means that all other kinds of our festivals that we are going to be holding it as a kind of a Shabbat of the 7 days period, which it is not. Yes, our festivals are Shabbat. Our festival are rest unto us, but this Shabbat, this kind of Shabbat is a different kind of Shabbat from the 7-day kind of Shabbat. So for us to I understand it might look a little bit kind of complicated, right? But the fact that I'm trying to let us understand is this: that the counting of Omer should, in my own understanding, in my own little understanding, should start from the Shabbat after the Pesach. That is, for example, we should if for us, the Ethiopian, the Karaite, the migrant Jews, we start counting the Omer from today. Like in the case of the Ashkenaz or the Safard, today is the 3rd day of Omer. While for us is just the 1st day. So, but they have their own reason, because they are interpreting the Torah, saying that Pesach is a Shabbat, and so therefore we need to start counting the Omer on the 2nd day of Pesach. In order to eat from, as already noted, we are not permitted to eat bread, parched grain, or fresh grain of the new harvest until the elevation of the Omer. That is in the book of Leviticus chapter 23 verse 14. It is written in the book of Joshua, and they ate of the produce of the land on the morrow after the Pesach, unleavened bread and parched grain, in this same day. Joshua chapter 5 verse 11. Those who uphold the view that the phrase of morrow after the Shabbat means the 16th of the first month use this verse as an evidence in the justification of their understanding. For in order to eat from the produce of the new grain, the elevation of the Omer will have already been offered, and seeing they ate from the new grain on the morrow after the Pesach, this will mean by insinuation that the morrow after the Pesach is the 16th. In order for this interpretation of Joshua chapter 5 verse 11 to be correct, it will mean that the Pesach will have fall on the 15th. However, the Pesach is not an actual festival, but is in fact an offering slaughter at the period of the twilight between the end of 14 and the beginning of 15. The Torah provides evidence that the phrase the morrow after the Pesach referred to the 15th of the first month and not on the 16th. And they journeyed from Ramsey in the first month on the 15th day of the first month on the morrow after the Pesach, which is Numbers chapter 33 verse 3. And this is what our people are saying, right? That, okay, if we look at what happened actually in Israel, in Egypt, right? We can see that they had the Pesach on the 14th, on the twilight to what? To 15. And on the 15th, what happened? They kicked them out. They kicked them out, even though in the night, say, okay, all of you, pack your load and leave, right? And Israel left Mizraim on that day. We left Mizraim on the 15th, not on the 16th. So that is what our people are saying. So for us to be able to understand how to begin of the counting of the Omer. Thus, on the year they enter the land under the leadership of Joshua, they ate from the produce of the new grain on the morrow after the Pesach, which is on the 15th. However, the produce of the new grain cannot be eaten until the elevation of the Omer, which is on the morrow after the Shabbat. Therefore, on the year of the entry into the land, the morrow after the Shabbat fell on the 15th of the first month, and it is hence impossible that the phrase the morrow after the Shabbat refer to 16. Thus, according to the Peshat, the phrase the morrow after the Shabbat means just that the day after the weekly Shabbat. In other words, the first day of the week, which is known in English as Sunday. You know, the first of the week in English language is Sunday. So they ate the fruit and they lifted up that on Sunday. Thus, the day on which the Omer is elevated, and we commence counting the 7 complete Shabbats until the Pilgrimage Festival of the Weeks in the first Sunday that fell within the Pilgrimage Festival of Maṣṣoth. Therefore, the Pilgrimage Festival of the Weeks will always also fall on the Sundays. Hence, the reason why it is the only festival that is not given a fixed day by the Torah, since it always falls on Sundays. That is, the first day of the week. Its date will change from year to year. That means that the date of the date of Shavuot always changes from year to year, but it's always on Sunday. That is what our people are saying. That if we follow the logical interpretation of what the Torah said from us leaving Egypt on the 15th, right? Because the Pesach was killed on the 14th in the twilight, in the evening, and the Torah said, and they kicked them out on the 15th. And we went out with our legion on the 15th, not on the 16th. So I know there's kinds of a lot of interpretation and so on and so forth. People have their own understanding. Some people say, no, this is what happened. Other people say, no, this is what happened. But we should all go back. My own advice is that we should all go back to the book of Joshua. And the book of Joshua gave us explicit interpretation of this. When the first Omer was counted. And if we understand the text perfectly well, we can see that, yes, years pass by, a lot of things happen. Many people must have, we must have, have different interpretation and understanding of what the Torah is talking about. But for me, as a rabbi, I want us to get it right, because there are people that want to use the Torah to cover their own iniquity, just like what Amigo was saying. He said that, okay, in Israel, we kill what? The ram to celebrate the Pesach. But there are some people, some group of people, which I know, they don't even celebrate, the Pesach. What they do is that they celebrate the ram. What do you mean by that? That means that people, or the ram or the goat, people, some group of, some sects, I would say, some sects in Judaism, they don't do the Pesach. They celebrate the ram or the goat. What do you mean by that? Or what do you understand by this? Their understanding here is, instead of them killing, remember that the ram or the goat in Egypt are gods. And so God said, don't worry, you can kill it and eat it and manger. It's a food for you. It's not kind of a God to be, fearful of. No. But there are people, some sect in Judaism, right, that celebrate the rams. That means they worship the ram on that day. The day of Pesach. So it's very strange. Remember, I always tell us, we have the Torah of Moshe, and we have the Torah of the other side. Remember, things are always balanced. We need to understand that we follow the Torah of Moshe, not the Torah of the other side. So we will kill the Pesach, and we will manger, and we will glorify the name of the Lord. For the Lord our God is good, for his mercy for us is everlasting. The few messages canting of the Omer from the view of the Ethiopian, and from the view of the Karaite, and from the view of the migrant Jews. That means the Jews of the eastern part. Shabbat shalom.